They say pressure makes diamonds, but what happens when pressure meets a man who's already unbreakable? They say isolation destroys souls, but what if solitude is where a warrior sharpens his blade? They say validation fuels ambition, but what if the most dangerous men are those who need nothing from anyone? They think they understand the game, but Sigma males aren't even playing by their rules. Welcome to Sigma Male Community, where we decode the blueprint of the unbreakable man. This isn't about fitting into society's neat little boxes or following the crowd's playbook. This is about understanding the 11 brutal reasons why no force on earth can shatter a true Sigma male's core. These aren't just personality quirks or social preferences. They're the forged steel foundations of a mindset that transforms ordinary pressure into extraordinary power, ordinary solitude into strategic advantage, and ordinary challenges into stepping stones toward mastery. If you've ever wondered why some men seem untouchable, unmovable, and utterly immune to the chaos that breaks others, you're about to discover the architecture of invincibility itself. 1. Pressure alchemy. The ancient Stoics understood something profound about adversity. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond that defines your character. The Sigma male has internalized this wisdom to a cellular level, transforming every ounce of pressure into pure advantage. When stress hits, most men crumble like sand castles against the tide, but the Sigma male becomes the tide itself. He doesn't just survive pressure. He alchemizes it, converting raw stress into strategic fuel that powers his next move. This isn't passive endurance, it's active transmutation, where every challenge becomes a catalyst for evolution. Picture a master blacksmith working with molten steel. The novice fears the heat and burns himself, but the master understands that without extreme temperature, there can be no transformation. The Sigma male approaches life's pressures with this same mastery, recognizing that stress isn't his enemy, it's his forge. He analyzes the source of pressure with cold precision, identifying not just the external force, but the internal weak points it reveals. This analytical approach transforms chaos into data, confusion into clarity, and overwhelming situations into strategic opportunities. While others scatter their energy fighting against pressure, the Sigma male channels it with laser focus. He doesn't waste time complaining about the heat. He studies its patterns, understands its rhythms, and learns to dance with its intensity. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent enough to separate the signal from the noise. The pressure that would break lesser men becomes the very force that refines his resolve, sharpens his focus, and crystallizes his purpose into something unbreakable. The result is a man who doesn't just survive storms, he harvests their power. External chaos becomes internal calm, not through denial or avoidance, but through the sophisticated understanding that turbulence is temporary but the strength gained from navigating it is permanent. He emerges from each pressure cooker not just intact, but enhanced, carrying within him the compressed wisdom of every challenge he's transmuted into triumph. This is pressure alchemy, the art of turning life's hardest moments into your greatest advantages. 2. Unshakable internal compass. The Stoic philosophers spoke of an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that no external force could penetrate. The Sigma male has built this citadel with meticulous precision, creating an internal compass so finely calibrated that no external magnetic field can throw it off course. His self-worth isn't a stock price fluctuating with market sentiment. It's bedrock, quarried from the deepest minds of self-knowledge and refined through years of honest self-examination. This isn't the brittle confidence of someone who's never been tested. It's the quiet certainty of a man who knows exactly who he is, what he stands for, and what he's capable of achieving. This internal compass operates on principles, not popularity. When the crowd cheers, he doesn't inflate with pride. When they jeer, he doesn't deflate with shame. He measures his worth against his own evolving standards, creating a feedback loop that's immune to external manipulation. Criticism becomes data to be analyzed, not poison to be absorbed. Praise becomes information to be processed, not validation to be craved. This emotional independence isn't coldness, it's the ultimate freedom, the liberation from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval from people whose opinions have no bearing on his mission. The power of this internal compass reveals itself most clearly in moments of rejection or failure. Where others see devastating setbacks, the Sigma male sees course corrections. A job rejection isn't a personal judgment, it's intelligence about misalignment. A relationship ending isn't a failure of worth, It's data about compatibility. A business venture failing isn't a character flaw, it's feedback for the next iteration. He treats these experiences like a scientist treats experimental results, extracting valuable information while remaining emotionally detached from outcomes that don't serve his larger purpose. This unshakable foundation creates a phenomenon that drives others to distraction, complete immunity to social pressure. You cannot manipulate someone who doesn't need your approval. You cannot control someone who measures success by internal metrics. You cannot break someone whose value system is sourced from within rather than supplied from without. The Sigma male's internal compass isn't just a navigation tool, it's a fortress, a sanctuary, and a power source all in one, creating a man who remains true north regardless of which way the world's winds are blowing. 3. The Solitude Crucible. While the masses flee from solitude like it's a disease, the Sigma male embraces it like a superpower. This isn't the painful isolation of someone who can't connect with others. It's the strategic solitude of someone who understands that peak performance requires peak focus, and peak focus requires freedom from the endless distractions of social noise. The Stoics called this the practice of withdrawal, not from life, but from the chaos that prevents clear thinking and purposeful action. The Sigma male has mastered this art, transforming solitude from a void to be filled into a crucible where his greatest ideas are forged. In the silence that others find terrifying, the Sigma male finds his greatest ally. This is where the static of other people's opinions finally stops broadcasting, where the pressure to perform for an audience dissolves, and where the pure signal of his own thoughts can finally be heard clearly. He doesn't just tolerate this solitude, he demands it, scheduling it like a crucial business meeting with the most important person in his life, himself. This isn't antisocial behavior, it's strategic advantage. While others burn through their mental energy on social obligations and meaningless interactions, he conserves his power for what truly matters. The transformative power of this solitude reveals itself in the quality of decisions and ideas that emerge from it. Without the influence of groupthink, without the pressure to conform to others' expectations, without the distraction of managing other people's emotions, the Sigma male's mind operates at maximum efficiency. He sees problems more clearly, generates solutions more creatively, and makes decisions more decisively. This isn't about becoming a hermit. It's about understanding that the most valuable real estate in the world is the space between your ears, and that space requires protection from constant invasion. The result is a man who genuinely enjoys his own company, who finds solitude energizing rather than draining, and who emerges from periods of withdrawal sharper, more focused, and more dangerous than when he entered. He doesn't fear being alone because he's never truly alone. He's in the company of his own powerful mind, constantly generating new strategies, refining existing plans, and building the internal infrastructure that makes him unbreakable. This solitude isn't escape from the world, it's preparation to conquer it more effectively. 4. Zero need for validation. The validation economy is a rigged game, and the Sigma male refuses to play. While others spend their lives accumulating social currency, likes, approval, recognition, applause, he operates on an entirely different economic system, one where value is generated internally and success is measured by personal satisfaction rather than public recognition. This isn't about being antisocial or arrogant. It's about being free from the most insidious form of slavery, the need for other people's approval to feel good about yourself. The Stoics understood this principle deeply, teaching that true freedom comes from within, not from external circumstances or other people's opinions. This immunity to the validation drug creates a man who is genuinely unpredictable and therefore uncontrollable. You cannot manipulate someone who doesn't need your praise. You cannot threaten someone who doesn't fear your disapproval. You cannot buy someone who doesn't value your opinion. The Sigma male's actions spring from his own internal code, his own sense of purpose, his own definition of success. When he builds, creates, or achieves, it's because the work itself aligns with his values, not because he's seeking external rewards or trying to impress an audience. The practical power of this validation independence reveals itself in every interaction. When others try to flatter him into compliance, he recognizes the manipulation attempt and either ignores it or uses it as information about the other person's agenda. When others try to shame him into conformity, he simply disengages from the conversation, refusing to accept the premise that their opinion matters to his decision-making process. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. He can see the strings attached to every compliment, the agenda behind every criticism, and the game being played by those who mistake his independence for vulnerability. The ultimate result is a man whose motivation is utterly self-sustaining. His drive doesn't depend on external fuel, so it can't be cut off by others' disapproval or diminished by their indifference. He doesn't need fans to feel successful, critics to feel challenged, or crowds to feel significant. This internal combustion engine of motivation makes him virtually unstoppable, because no external force can drain his energy or derail his purpose. He has achieved the ultimate freedom. The freedom from needing anyone else's permission to be himself or pursue his goals. 5. Silent impact. The loudest engines are usually the least efficient, and the Sigma male understands this principle at a cellular level. While others exhaust themselves in the theater of self-promotion, constantly announcing their intentions and broadcasting their achievements, he operates in the strategic silence that amplifies true power. This isn't about being secretive or mysterious for its own sake. It's about understanding that real strength doesn't need to advertise itself, and that the most devastating moves are often the ones nobody sees coming. The ancient Stoics valued this principle, teaching that true virtue demonstrates itself through action, not proclamation. This silent operation creates a presence that is both magnetic and unsettling. When the Sigma male enters a room, people notice, not because he's making noise but because he's making none. His calm confidence creates a gravitational field that draws attention without demanding it. He doesn't need to announce his competence because it radiates from every decision he makes, every problem he solves, every challenge he navigates with calm precision. This unspoken authority is far more powerful than any title or position because it's earned through consistent excellence rather than political maneuvering. The strategic advantage of this silent approach reveals itself in how it disarms those who rely on volume to intimidate. Bullies, manipulators, and attention seekers lose their power when their target refuses to engage in the emotional theater they've created. The Sigma male's silence isn't passive, it's active listening, active analysis, active preparation for the moment when action is required. He lets others reveal their strategies through their noise while he conserves his energy for the precise moment when intervention will have maximum impact. The result is a man whose influence extends far beyond his immediate sphere, whose decisions create ripple effects that others can feel but can't always trace back to their source. He commands respect not through dominance displays but through the undeniable results of his actions. His silence isn't emptiness, it's compressed power, potential energy waiting for the right moment to convert into kinetic force. This creates a reputation that precedes him, a presence that speaks louder than words, and an impact that is felt long after he's left the room. This is where they misunderstand you. The world looks at your strategic silence and sees passivity, but they're reading the wrong language. They mistake your calculated stillness for weakness, your thoughtful withdrawal for defeat, your independent operation for loneliness. They project their own insecurities onto your confidence, their own noise onto your quiet, their own need for constant validation onto your self-sufficiency. But you know the truth they can't see. Beneath the calm surface lies a storm of focused energy, a hurricane of purpose, a tsunami of capability that could reshape landscapes if properly directed. They call you detached, but you're engaged in a game they don't even know exists. While they compete for fleeting social status and temporary recognition, you're building something permanent, a fortress of character, a foundation of competence, a legacy of impact that will outlast their loudest achievements. Their confusion isn't a bug in your system, it's a feature. Your unpredictability is your protection, your mystery is your moat, your independence is your invincibility. The beautiful irony is that their misunderstanding becomes your greatest strategic advantage. While they waste energy trying to figure you out, you're 3 moves ahead, operating in dimensions they can't perceive. Their attempts to categorize you reveal more about their limitations than your character. They see your nonconformity and call it rebellion, but you're not rebelling, you're simply refusing to play a game that doesn't serve your higher purpose. Keep them guessing. Their confusion is your camouflage, their assumptions are your armor, their underestimation is your edge. You're not obligated to explain yourself to people who lack the intelligence to understand your strategy or the character to appreciate your integrity. Let them whisper while you work, let them theorize while you build, let them judge while you achieve. Your silence isn't consent to their narrative, it's confirmation that you're operating on a level they can't reach. 6. Emotional fortress. The Sigma male has built an emotional fortress that would make medieval architects weep with envy. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or cutting himself off from feelings. It's about creating a sophisticated defense system that allows him to feel deeply while preventing those feelings from being weaponized against him. The Stoics understood this principle, teaching that emotions are data, not directives, and that true strength comes from observing your feelings without being enslaved by them. The Sigma male has internalized this wisdom, creating an emotional immune system that protects his peace while maintaining his humanity. This fortress operates on multiple levels of defense. The outer walls recognize emotional manipulation attempts before they can even approach the gates. Guilt trips, emotional blackmail, manufactured drama, and synthetic outrage crash against these defenses like waves against granite. He doesn't get drawn into the emotional theater that others use to control behavior because he can see the script being performed and chooses not to audition for a role. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. He can distinguish between genuine emotional connection and emotional manipulation with the precision of a surgeon separating healthy tissue from diseased. The inner sanctum of this fortress is where his authentic emotions are processed and integrated. He feels joy, pain, anger, love, and frustration as deeply as anyone else, but he experiences them in a controlled environment where they can't be exploited by others. This emotional processing happens on his terms, in his time, according to his values. He doesn't deny his feelings, he governs them, ensuring that his emotional responses serve his larger purpose rather than derailing it. This creates a man who can care deeply while remaining strategically detached, who can love fully while maintaining his independence. The result is a man who engages with the world emotionally but never emotionally recklessly. He chooses when to open the gates of his fortress and when to raise the drawbridge, making these decisions based on wisdom rather than impulse. This emotional sovereignty makes him virtually immune to the emotional leverage that others use to control behavior. You cannot guilt-trip someone who doesn't accept unearned guilt. You cannot manipulate someone who doesn't need your emotional approval. You cannot break someone whose emotional core is protected by walls of pure will and strategic intelligence. 7. Ruthless prioritization, focus incarnate. The Sigma male's focus isn't just sharp, it's surgical. While others scatter their energy across 1,000 different priorities, he operates with the precision of a laser, identifying what truly matters and eliminating everything else as irrelevant noise. This isn't about being narrow-minded or inflexible. It's about understanding that energy is finite, attention is precious, and results are produced through concentrated effort rather than scattered activity. The Stoics called this the discipline of desire, knowing what to want and what to ignore, and the Sigma male has mastered this art to a level that makes him virtually unstoppable. This ruthless prioritization begins with a clear understanding of his core values and non-negotiable goals. He doesn't just stumble through life reacting to whatever demands his attention. He proactively defines what deserves his focus and what doesn't. Social drama, petty conflicts, meaningless obligations, and energy vampires are identified and eliminated with the efficiency of a virus scanner removing threats. This isn't about being antisocial, it's about being strategic. Every minute spent on irrelevant activities is a minute stolen from meaningful progress. The practical application of this focus creates results that seem almost supernatural to those who haven't mastered the same discipline. While others burn through their mental energy on distractions, the Sigma male conserves his power for targets that actually move the needle. He doesn't just work hard, he works smart, channeling his considerable abilities toward objectives that compound over time rather than dissipate in momentary satisfaction. This creates a snowball effect where each focused effort builds upon the last, generating momentum that becomes increasingly difficult to stop. The ultimate result is a man who embodies the principle of less noise, more signal. His life has the clarity of a well-tuned instrument, with every element serving a specific purpose in the larger composition. He doesn't just avoid distractions, he's forgotten they exist, having trained his attention to automatically filter out anything that doesn't serve his mission. This level of focus creates a kind of practical invincibility, making him immune to the scattered approach that keeps most people running in circles while achieving nothing substantial. 8. The Discipline Doctrine. Motivation is the fair-weather friend of achievement. It shows up when you feel good and disappears when you need it most. The Sigma male has long since evolved beyond dependence on such fickle emotions, building instead an iron framework of discipline that operates regardless of mood, circumstances, or external conditions. This isn't about becoming a robot or suppressing natural human responses. It's about creating a system of consistent action that produces results even when motivation is nowhere to be found. The Stoics understood this principle deeply, teaching that virtue is a practice, not a feeling, and that character is built through repeated action rather than good intentions. This discipline extends far beyond simple task completion. It governs his thoughts, his reactions, his energy expenditure, and his very approach to existence. While others hit the snooze button and negotiate with their own standards, the Sigma male operates according to non-negotiable protocols that he follows regardless of how he feels about them in the moment. This creates a kind of internal momentum that carries him through challenges that would derail those who depend on external motivation or emotional states. His discipline isn't punishment, it's power, the power to act according to his values rather than his impulses. The compound effect of this disciplined approach creates capabilities that seem almost superhuman to those who haven't developed the same level of self-mastery. He doesn't hope he can handle pressure. He knows he can because he's conditioned himself for it through thousands of small acts of discipline. Each morning routine followed, each workout completed, each commitment honored, each temptation resisted builds the internal infrastructure that makes him virtually unbreakable. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency, the kind of consistent excellence that transforms ordinary potential into extraordinary results. The ultimate manifestation of this discipline is a man who has become his own reliable partner. He doesn't need external accountability because he's developed internal accountability that operates 24/7. He doesn't need others to push him because he's learned to push himself more effectively than anyone else could. This self-governance creates a kind of practical freedom that most people never experience. The freedom that comes from knowing you can count on yourself to do what needs to be done, when it needs to be done regardless of how you feel about it. 9. Observer Supreme, Master Strategist. While others live in the reactive chaos of emotional impulse, the Sigma male operates from the strategic high ground of careful observation. He's not just present in social situations, he's studying them, decoding the hidden patterns of human behavior with the precision of a cryptographer breaking enemy codes. This isn't about being paranoid or antisocial. It's about understanding that most human interaction operates on multiple levels simultaneously, and that the most important information is often communicated through what people don't say rather than what they do. The Stoics valued this kind of practical wisdom, understanding that observation and analysis are the foundation of effective action. This constant analysis creates a database of human behavior patterns that makes him virtually impossible to surprise or manipulate. He reads body language like a native speaker, hears the subtext beneath casual conversation, and maps power dynamics with the accuracy of a skilled cartographer. This isn't about being cynical, it's about being prepared. He understands that most social interactions involve some form of negotiation, and that the person with the most accurate information usually wins. By the time others are making their opening moves, he's already calculated their likely strategies and prepared his responses. The strategic advantage of this observational mastery reveals itself in his uncanny ability to anticipate problems before they develop and opportunities before they become obvious. He sees the trap before it's sprung, the angle before it's played, the outcome before it's reached. This predictive capability isn't magic. It's pattern recognition applied to human behavior, the natural result of years spent watching, learning, and understanding how people really operate beneath their public personas. He plays chess while others play checkers, often allowing them to believe they're winning until his carefully planned move ends the game. The result is a man who moves through the world with the confidence of someone who has already seen the movie and knows how it ends. His actions are never random reactions, they're calculated responses based on superior intelligence and deeper understanding. This strategic mindset makes him incredibly difficult to outmaneuver because he's usually operating several moves ahead of the apparent game. He doesn't just react to situations, he shapes them, creating outcomes that serve his purposes while others are still trying to figure out what's happening. 10. Societal Antithesis. The Sigma male stands as a living rejection of everything society tells men they should be. He doesn't rebel loudly or dramatically, he simply opts out of games he recognizes as fundamentally rigged against his values and long-term interests. This isn't teenage rebellion or contrarian posturing. It's the mature recognition that conformity is often the enemy of authentic success and genuine happiness. The Stoics understood this principle, teaching that true virtue often requires standing against popular opinion and that the crowd is rarely right about anything important. This independence from social pressure operates on multiple levels. He doesn't follow trends because he understands that trends are manufactured by people who profit from your insecurity and need for belonging. He doesn't participate in groupthink because he's developed the intellectual confidence to form his own opinions based on evidence rather than consensus. He doesn't scramble for social status because he recognizes that most status games are designed to keep players running in circles rather than actually achieving anything meaningful. This isn't about being antisocial. It's about being selectively social, engaging with society on his terms rather than theirs. The practical power of this societal independence reveals itself in his complete immunity to peer pressure and social manipulation. You cannot shame someone who doesn't accept your definition of shame. You cannot pressure someone who doesn't need your approval. You cannot control someone who has already decided that your opinion is irrelevant to his decision-making process. This creates a man who is genuinely free to pursue his own path, unencumbered by the need to maintain appearances or satisfy expectations that don't align with his values. The ultimate result is a man who lives according to his own internal constitution rather than society's external expectations. He finds strength in his independence, even when it means walking alone against the current of popular opinion. This isn't loneliness, it's leadership, the kind of authentic leadership that comes from having the courage to be different when different is better. He understands that conformity is the cage and that true freedom exists outside the bars, in the wild territory where original thinking and authentic living are not just possible but necessary. 11. The Unfuckwithable Core. This is where all the previous elements converge into something truly formidable. The Unfuckwithable Core. Take the internal compass, the emotional fortress, the discipline doctrine, the strategic mind, the comfort in solitude, the immunity to validation, the ruthless focus, the societal detachment, the pressure mastery, and the silent power, and integrate them into a single cohesive system. What emerges is not just a strong man or a resilient man, but something approaching the invincible, a self-sustaining, self-correcting, self-improving system that becomes more powerful with each challenge it faces. This core doesn't mean he's invulnerable to pain or immune to setbacks. He absolutely experiences failure, disappointment, loss, and heartbreak like any human being. The crucial difference is in how he metabolizes these experiences. Where others are broken down by adversity, he is broken open, revealing new layers of strength and capability he didn't know he possessed. He doesn't avoid the fire, he learns to dance with the flames, to use their heat for his own purposes, to emerge from each burning not as a victim but as a phoenix. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of turning obstacles into opportunities, not just surviving challenges but transforming them into fuel for growth. The integration of all these elements creates a phenomenon that frustrates those who try to categorize or control him. He can't be manipulated because he doesn't need external validation. He can't be broken because he's learned to bend without breaking. He can't be predicted because he operates according to his own logic rather than social scripts. He can't be controlled because he's already mastered the art of self-control. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being anti-fragile, gaining strength from stressors rather than being weakened by them. The ultimate manifestation of this unfuckwithable core is a man who has become his own rescue, his own validation, his own entertainment, his own motivation, and his own security. He doesn't look for saviors because he's learned to save himself. He doesn't seek rescue because he's become the rescuer. He doesn't need external completion because he's achieved internal integration. Breaking this kind of man doesn't require overcoming his defenses. It requires breaking the fundamental laws of his being, dismantling the very principles that make him who he is. And that, quite simply, is an impossible task. These 11 reasons aren't just theories or wishful thinking. They're the battle-tested principles that separate the truly unbreakable from the merely tough. Every Sigma male watching this recognizes these traits not as aspirations but as lived reality, the hard-won wisdom that comes from years of choosing the difficult path of authentic independence over the easy path of social conformity. You've seen how pressure becomes your forge, how solitude becomes your power plant, how silence becomes your weapon, and how discipline becomes your freedom. These aren't just personality traits. They're the architectural plans for building a life that can't be shaken by external storms. The world will continue to misunderstand you, to project their own weaknesses onto your strength, to mistake your strategic silence for weakness and your independence for loneliness. Let them. Their confusion is your camouflage, their underestimation is your advantage, their need for your validation is their vulnerability. You've built something they can't comprehend. A fortress of character that grows stronger with each attempt to breach it. A foundation of self-reliance that deepens with each challenge that tests it. You're not just surviving in a world that tries to break strong men, you're thriving, creating value, building legacy, and demonstrating that true power comes from within. This is what Sigma male community exists to celebrate and cultivate, the unbreakable mindset that transforms ordinary men into extraordinary forces of nature. We're not here to make you fit in, we're here to help you stand out in the ways that actually matter. We're not here to make you popular, we're here to make you powerful in the truest sense of the word. Every video, every insight, every piece of wisdom we share is designed to strengthen that unfuckwithable core that makes you genuinely dangerous to mediocrity and absolutely toxic to those who profit from your weakness. If this resonates with the man you are or the man you're becoming, then you know what to do. Hit that like button not because I asked you to, but because you recognize truth when you hear it. Share this video not to boost my numbers, but to help other men discover their own unbreakable nature. Subscribe and turn on notifications not to join a community, but to connect with a brotherhood of men who refuse to be broken by a world that specializes in breaking strong spirits. And most importantly, take this knowledge and forge it into action, because the world needs more unbreakable men who can stand as lighthouses in the storm, showing others that there is another way to live, the Sigma way. The blueprint is in your hands. Now build something that can't be destroyed.